This little cutie is my original free pattern for a cat with big paws and a bendable tail. It's by far my most popular pattern. So in addition to this free pattern, available on my site and on Ravelry, you can watch this video tutorial. Links to everything are in the description box. Welcome to the final part in this series. Today we'll attach the head to the body, create that bendable tail, and add that on as well. I'm Susie Diaz, and together with Miguel Guerra, we create comics and webcomics at 7robots.com. I also love creating handmade toys, and crochet makes it easy. I'll share my patterns here so you can follow me step by step. Welcome to Parasol Geek, Crochet Edition.
Bisous, bisous!
Here's where everything comes together. We made the body in part 3, and we're going to place the head that we created in part 1 onto the body and use the center of the magic ring, that center space, to align the back of the head. So for now we'll put our yarn through our yarn needle. Okay, so the back of the head should align with that space from the magic ring. Once you decide where your first stitch should be, you put that in. And if you're wrong, don't worry. If you do a few stitches and notice the head is not looking straight, just undo it and start again. I've done that a few times. You can see how I'm using the very center of the body to align the back of the head. And as always, with everything we've created, remember to use every stitch, to sew every stitch from the head in place. And this guarantees that the head stays firm and doesn't flop over, especially if it's for children and they play with this a lot. You want every stitch in place so nothing goes wrong. Sometimes, as I mentioned, the head needs to face forward. Sometimes you can't tell until you've put in maybe 5 or 6 stitches. So I always look to make sure, because this is still an easy place to undo your work. And if you're happy and it looks like it's facing forward, continue. And that's basically it. Easy peasy. Sew every stitch in place all the way around the head until you get to the end. Back in part 1, I mentioned the importance of stuffing the head firmly so it stays in place. If for any reason you think you might need more stuffing, you can stop sewing and stuff. You see, there's lots of room there, especially if you use a pencil or a chopstick or even your finger. You can add more stuffing so it's nice and firm. It should be full of stuffing. This is the key to having the head stay in place. We're more than halfway there, and it's the final stretch for sewing on this cute little head. Here is the final stitch. Et voila! The head is in place. I'm just squishing it a little bit to change the shape, to put it the way I like it a little bit more. And making sure everything looks aligned. And I'm pretty happy with that, which is great. I hope you're happy with yours. I've decided to add a few extra stitches to reinforce the position of the head, especially if it's for a child. They usually shake these and bend them, do whatever they like with them. And I want to make sure that even after excessive play, this head will stay firmly in place. I suppose you can't even make corrections. If your head is tilted a little bit, just a little bit too much to the right or the left, you can add an extra stitch to the opposite side to balance it out. If it's tipped slightly too much forward, you can add some stitches to the back to pull the head up a little bit. So it is true, you can make corrections at this point or just reinforce the head, which is what I'm doing. This will be my last stitch. Now I'm happy. The head feels firm and everything I think looks good and is aligned. So you just remove your yarn needle and use your scissors to snip off the loose end. And there we go. We have our body all made. Good for you. Please remember to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video series. It's time for our final element, the tricolor tail, what brings this whole little cat together. To start, you'll need your favorite hook and yarn. I'm using a 3mm hook and some DK weight yarn. We'll start by creating a magic ring. Wrap the yarn like so around your index and middle fingers to create an X. With the hook, go under the first strand, hook the second strand, pull it under the first and twist. Now yarn over and pull the hook through the first loop on your hook. And there you go, you have a magic ring. Now it's time to add 6 single crochets into the magic ring. So that's our last single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull the yarn tail to close the magic ring. Now we're already at round 2. Here we will add 2 single crochets into each stitch around. And adding 2 single crochets increases your stitch count. That's why it's called an increase. Okay, so here's 2 more single crochets into the same stitch. 2 more into the same stitch. Continue the same pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. Hello and welcome to the last stitch. We're going to add our final increase. 1 single crochet and a second single crochet. And at the end of round 2, your stitch count has doubled and is 12. Now we'll continue to single crochet all the way around from rounds 3 to round 8. And I just entered my first single crochet and I'm adding a stitch marker. I'll continue to single crochet with you until the end of this round, which is round 7. 1 single crochet, in the next stitch another single crochet, and you get the picture. This will be our last single crochet for round 7. And you can see it's not expanding in a circle, it's starting to go up to create our tube. Continue to single crochet all the way around and I'll meet you at round 8. We're at the end of round 8 and I have 2 loops on the hook. I didn't finish the single crochet because I'm going to switch to white. So instead of yarning over to create your single crochet with the same color, I'm going to use my next color. And in this case, my color is white. So I have 2 pink loops on my hook from the previous single crochet, but I didn't finish that single crochet. Now I'm taking my white yarn, I'm holding it with my middle finger, but you hold it whatever way is comfortable. And now I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops with the white yarn. And that's how I switch colors. Now I'm going to tie a knot to secure it in place. I mean, there's many ways to do this. This is the way I do it, nice and easy. Now's a good time to hide all those yarn tails. So the pink yarn tail from the first color, pretend it's stuffing and pop it in there. And the little end of the white yarn you can put in there as well. So what's the next thing we do? We will single crochet. That's all we do for the rest of this tail. So this is round 9. We're starting to work on it. And if you continue to single crochet all the way until round 20, I'll meet you at the end of round 20 and we'll do our final color switch. At round 20, hopefully your tail looks something like this. We have our first color and our second color. I'm just making sure I completed all of my rounds. And it's time to add our third color, and this is the same as the body color. And I do that so when you sew the tail to the body, there's no transition, and it's easier to sew and hide your stitch marks. So I've snipped the end of the white color, our second color, and now just as we did previously, we're going to have 2 loops on the hook. Now we're going to switch to our body color. So yarn over with the new color, hold the new color with your middle finger, and then pull through the 2 white loops, and there you go. Now you can begin to single crochet. So I usually add 1 single crochet in the new color, and then I tie a knot to secure everything in place. We'll continue to work here by adding all of our single crochets to round 21. Here we are at the end of round 21, so you can get an idea of what it looks like. And continue to single crochet in each stitch around in this color until round 32. Voila! The magic of editing. We're at the end of round 32, and this is your tube with your 3 colors. Measure off a good size yarn tail and cut it off. You'll use this to sew the tail to the back of the body. My inspiration for creating this pattern was my daughter. She wanted a little cat that could stand up. So the two unique features are the oversized paws, the big feet, and a bendable tail. I do that with a pipe cleaner, but to finish this you also need something to stuff the tail with. I find a pencil without an eraser is great, a yarn needle, and stuffing. I'll remove the things I don't need out of the way, and I'll take this pipe cleaner. So start by folding it in half. Take your little cat and count 4 rounds up from the top of the leg. And try to find the 2 center stitches. The pipe cleaner will go in one space. You're going to skip a space and pull it through. So there's one empty space in between. And you can measure this or eyeball it, whatever you like. That's where the center of the tail will be. And because my pipe cleaner's longer than my tail, as you can see, I'm just going to fold that. The advantage of doing this is it makes the tip of the pipe cleaner softer. There's no pointy ends that might accidentally hurt someone, especially if children are playing with this cat. The final pipe cleaner length is just a little shorter than the tail. So now I'm going to add some stuffing to the tip of the tail. And here comes my handy dandy pencil. And just push that all the way down to the tip of the tail. So once you've created a nice little soft part at the end, it also acts a buffer against the pipe cleaner. Put the tail in place like so, feeding it around the pipe cleaner. And you'll see that the tail bends, but it looks a little skinny. Not enough in there, so that's where the stuffing comes in. A good tip here is to add a little bit at a time. If you overstuff the tail, it will not bend. It might look good, might be an option, but if you want it to bend, just add a little bit at a time. Anytime you add stuffing to crochet, you're customizing the shape. So whatever you happen to crochet, it changes in shape once you add the stuffing. So for this tail, use your hands to make sure there are no lumps. There are no parts that are overstuffed and understuffed. In other words, make sure you have a consistent amount of stuffing from the tip of the tail to the end of the tail, so it'll look good and it'll feel good. I'm adding a bit more so that the consistency is the same throughout the tail. And this is just playing it by ear. As I mentioned, if you need to take some stuffing out, go ahead and use your crochet hook. If you want to add more, of course, you can easily add more. It's finally time to sew the tail in place. So take your good old needle and your yarn tail and feed that through. The tricky part with the tail isn't the sewing, it's the placement. You want to make sure that the tail is aligned in between the 2 back legs. So you can draw a vertical line from the center of the tail right through between the legs. So once you think you have the correct stitch, go for it. And I'm going to constantly be checking the first few stitches because I can always undo. It's super easy to undo and try it again. Nothing is permanent until you tie everything off. Okay, I'm going to use the round as a little ruler line for me to add my next stitch. And always remember to sew into each stitch around the tail. So you should have 12 stitches all the way around. And it secures it completely. It won't come off. As I mentioned, I'm doing this slowly because if I made a mistake, if it's not centered, I can undo my stitches. But it looks good. It's centered with the legs. And I'm going to continue now going a little bit up. And follow the natural shape of the tail. The tail will tell you where to enter your stitches. Pull nice and tight. Again, if it doesn't look good, you have time to undo your stitches and start again. Speaking of making a correction, I think I have one right here. I didn't like that last stitch. It was a little too far away from the tail, which made it more noticeable. So I just undid my stitch, and I'm going to try again. So I'll put it in a different place now, a little closer to the tail. And hopefully that will look better. Isn't that the nice thing about crochet? It's very forgiving. We'll continue to sew into each stitch all the way around. And we're nearly at the end. Woohoo! I hope you're having fun and you're staying motivated. And let me tell you, you're nearly at the end. And all of these parts that we've made from head to toe are nearing completion. As you complete these cats, I would actually love to see your work. You can leave comments below. You can share pictures with me. I'm on Twitter at 7robots Inc., Instagram 7robots, and all my contact information is on my webpage at www.7robots.com. I'd love to see what you've created. Actually, some people have turned this into a dog and did a fantastic job of making a little dog with the body, just changed a little bit. You can, I'm sure, make many other animals. Maybe a long neck for a giraffe, a cute elephant. I don't know. The possibilities are endless for modifications. But I would appreciate it if you shared with me anything that you do. It'd be fantastic, and I'd share your pictures. Oh my goodness! Our tail, it's done! After all 5 parts of this crochet series. Wow, look at that. Now it's time to hide our yarn tail. Woohoo! Everything will be hidden inside. I'm just feeding my needle through and exiting anywhere at all. No rhyme nor reason. I'm going to enter into the same stitch, the same hole, and exit somewhere else. And I'll do that a third time just to make sure everything remains in place. And as you sew it through the body, the yarn gets caught up in the stuffing, and it means that there's no way that this tail is going to come undone. So I'm not going to tie a knot, but each time I go through the body with the yarn becomes more tangled up inside the stuffing, and it won't move. So now I'm finally happy. I'm going to snip that tail, cut that off, and oh my gosh, there's our cat. Can you believe it's done? I'm going to try the bending of the tail and have fun making it different shapes, different sizes, different weird curvy concoctions. If you did use a wire, just make sure to stuff it so the wire doesn't accidentally come out of the cat. I used a pipe cleaner so it's easier and there's no risk of injury. There we go. Take a look at your work. Bravo! Be proud of yourself. Here's a 360 view. And if you would be so kind, please like and subscribe. If I see I get good feedback, I'll make more of these videos with more free tutorials. For now, c'est fini. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you come back soon.